What's up? Today we're going to do another session of Nutrition 101, and I want to talk about the 10 basic rules of weight management or even weight loss. Okay, so let's crack right into it. So the first rule of thumb is related to our eating patterns. You want to make sure that you eat every 3 to 4 hours, even if you're not hungry. And that's an interesting statement for people because there's a lot of concepts out there that say, wait till you get hungry before you eat. But the problem with that is, well, if you think about it, how many people make good, solid decisions about food when they're hungry? It goes out of the window, right? So when we're hungry, we're not like, I'm going to have a salad. No, we all of a sudden see cookies or something else and we're going for it. So the goal is to bridge the gap between all your meals. Eat every 3 to 4 hours. And if that third 3-hour mark is happening, and you know you should be eating something, but you're not quite hungry, still have a little bit of snack. It's a good way to keep your metabolism burning and thriving. Okay, so if you think about your body, and I'll give you a quick analogy. If you think about your metabolism as a furnace, it's very similar in some ways, and this is a non-scientific version of this, but if it's like a furnace, so your way to keep a furnace running efficiently is to not have it completely shut off and turn on and shut down and turn on. You want to keep a steady state. Our body is a lot like that too. We want to make sure that it never goes into a mode of shutdown or what we know as starvation mode. Keep it going, keep food coming in consistently. Never put it into a state where it feels like there was going to be a while before it gets food again, because then it's going to start storing, okay? Eat every 3 to 4 hours, even if you're not hungry. And on the page of metabolism, your second rule of thumb is to never skip breakfast. And that should go right along with rule number 1. It is true that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. There are concepts out there, a bunch of versions of intermittent fasting. I'm not going to get into that. And there's a lot of science and things that can be a challenge for intermittent fasting. But what I will say is people who eat consistently and on a schedule generally do better than people who don't. And statistics show that people who eat a solid breakfast, and when I say solid, make sure there's protein in that. I'll come back to that later. But a nice solid breakfast, what it will do is it'll help to keep you going throughout the day, kind of set the metabolic rate. Within that first hour of waking is where your body will determine, are we storing for the day? Are we burning? So get breakfast in first hour of the day. Okay, so don't get up at 7 and then wait till 10. No, you need to be getting in breakfast quickly when you first wake up. Okay, third rule is about protein and fat. So the thing about protein and fat, what we love about it, if you watch my other nutrition segments, is that they both slow digestion and they aid in keeping you full. So rule of thumb is make sure that you have protein and fat or some combination of it at every meal, and especially with snacks. Of course, you have to watch your portion. You can't go overboard. So for example, let's say you're frying a couple of eggs and you got a little fat in the pan. Okay. And you're using the whole egg. There is benefit to the yolk, people. And then you decide, oh, on top of the egg, I'm going to add cheese. And then I say, on top of the egg, I'm going to add some avocado. By the way, awesome combination, but super high in fat. And then at lunch, you have something else of high fat and so on. You do have to have a balance to it. You know, fat is good for us, the right type of fat. And I don't even like using the term good or bad. But either way, having some protein and fat at every single meal, it'll help to regulate our blood sugars. So this is imperative to people who are diabetic, but even for prevention of. And it's going to keep you full. It's going to keep you from craving. It's going to keep you happy and full all day. So remember that. The fourth thing that I want to talk about is being prepared. It's interesting because when I counsel with clients, almost every single time when they're struggling and I say to them, what went wrong this week? They say, I wasn't prepared. I am not necessarily talking about cooking a week's worth of meal and putting in the freezer, although if you want to do that, go for it. And having some things set aside or frozen for those days that you were not ready or you had to rush home is not a bad idea either. But you really need to go into any day or a couple of days in or any week and know what you're eating. Most people don't give it thought until they hit the grocery store. You should have a plan in mind before you even get to the grocery store. You should know in general what you're going to be eating for the week. and go from there. So when I kind of look at my meals for the week, I always start with dinner because that's the one area that I have to make for multiple people. But it's also the area that I have to be organized. It needs to be fairly on time, or then my kids get like the hangries. And so I will utilize what I've got planned for dinner, how much we're making, how many nights. I'm a big fan of leftovers. Cook once, eat 3 days. Yes. But I will be looking at that, and what I make for dinner will then determine what I'm going to have for lunch. As in, is there a leftover? Am I cooking from scratch? Am I making a nice healthy wrap on the go? You know, those sort of things. Or am I making a little extra for me to freeze for a day that I'm not prepared, if that makes sense? And then I work my way back. And breakfasts are pretty easy to grab. Generally, I can quick on the go, make a smoothie, scramble a couple eggs, make some healthy oats, things like that. So yeah, so that would be your new rule number 4 is be prepared. Know what you're going to eat. The fifth rule about weight loss or weight management is you want to have an accountability partner. Statistics show that people who have someone to be accountable to generally do so much better. I'm not going to give you the exact statistics, but we know it's true. When you have someone else watching over you that you have to be accountable to, that you have to report to, it makes a big difference. And that's a lot of time where if somebody in their household doesn't have, or somebody within their household doesn't have someone to keep them accountable, then a lot of times that's what they're coming to me for. Not only to be a coach and not only to teach them, but also to keep them accountable. It's a nice partnership. But it's always good to have someone within their home environment or lifestyle environment, maybe at work, whatever it is, that will keep them accountable to making the right choices. And I'll come to treats in a second because I think treats are okay too. But either way, accountability is huge. And on the note of accountability, the 6th thing that I want to talk about is tracking or journaling your food. It is proven that when people write down or digitally track what they're eating, the times they're eating and everything, they do so much better. A couple of things come into play. Number 1, you're more aware. And when you're more aware, you start to think about what you're doing. It's that mind-body connection. And then you tend to eat better, or again, that awareness. It just helps you to do better. It's interesting, but a lot of times we're already aware what the problem is. It's interesting because then when you have to write it down or track it, sometimes it's a matter of, and I'm like this, I think, oh, that's a pain to track. How am I going to track that? I don't really want to track that. That's going to look terrible on there. And so I'll choose not to eat it, because I'd rather not track it. I know that sounds weird, but it actually works. So whether you use an app, there's a lot of great apps out there, or whether you have someone in your household that's going to keep you accountable and you're going to write these things down, or whatever it is, find a way to write down and track what you're doing and go from there. Okay, the 7th rule of helping people manage their weight and looking at weight loss is to try new things. It is one of the main reasons why people give up when they were trying to do well in the food department, when they're trying to diet. I hate that word, by the way. First 3 letters of diet is die. Anyway, but one of the main reasons why people give up on something is pure boredom. They're told, and I've seen this, go ahead, eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. Chicken, rice, and broccoli. It's the most standard thing you can eat. So boring. I mean, good here or there, but step out of that range. Look at adding spice and flavor to your food, and be careful about condiments. I'm being careful how I say that, but cook something new, try something new. Your palate just appreciates good food and good flavor. So don't get stuck in a rut by cooking and eating the same foods, because what will happen is one day you're going to sit to eat, you're going to look at that plate and you're going to go, oh, I just can't do this again. I'm getting pizza, which treats are okay. Pizza here or there, right? But you don't want to get stuck to the point that you hate your food. Okay, so you've got to make sure you step out of that place and try new things. Rule number 8 is you need to learn to treat yourself. And this is interesting because a lot of people out there will tell you, no, you've got to refrain, you've got to restrict. Okay, yeah, you have to learn the balance. You can't say yes to everything that comes in front of you. Unfortunately, it's just the world we live in. I like to say there's magic on this. But having said that, you do have to find that balance. And I think treating yourself is so important. Treating yourself doesn't always have to be a food item. Maybe you're going to set a goal and treat yourself to getting some new clothes or going on a trip, and that's totally fine too. but that could be far away from a goal. I find, and again, it sounds silly, and people will tell you don't use food as a reward, but we do that naturally. That's what we do. So maybe what we do is if we're going to have a treat sometime in our life, because we are, why don't we set a day or time to do that? Maybe it's every Saturday night. Maybe we have a special date night or something coming up, or we've booked a special dinner and maybe that's our treat. Learn to treat yourself. I call it treat yourself responsibly. Enjoy it, but don't let it get out of hand. Conversation I had with my daughter was, okay, we've got date night Friday night. We're going to have this treat. And I said, that sounds great. Just don't let Friday night turn into Saturday and Saturday night turn into Sunday and so on. And next thing you know, entire weekend of treating. That is where it gets out of hand. And then we have 3 out of 4 out of our 7 days that we've overdone it. And then we're wondering why we're not seeing results. So be aware of those things. Okay, so number 9, we're getting there, is I need you to look at your environment, meaning your household, where your food is, where you live, your workplace, and do the best you can to keep your environment clean. Now, this is a tough one because not everybody has control over their environment. For example, I consult and work with a lot of teachers who get in a staff room and there's donuts and treats and potlucks. Well, they have 2 options. One, they can avoid the staff room, or they can go in, not look, or they can go in with willpower. But that is in itself a struggle, and make sure they always bring food with them so they're not tempted. That would be another thing. Or at home, maybe we have a significant other that likes to bring treats into the home. Well, that can be a challenge too, because we're trying to eat well and then they walk in with cake or donuts and you're like, are you kidding me right now? I'm trying to do this. So we'll get into that last number 10 that's coming up. But really do your best to clean out the environment. It's really hard to say, I'm going to do this. I'm getting on track. And you've got a cupboard full of garbage and treats and sugar and things that are going to make you crave. It is not a good idea. Statistically, again, people do better when their environment is in a cleaner place. That doesn't mean you can't have treats, but don't keep loads of them around. It's really, really difficult to stay on track with so many things around. But one trick we've used in our household is if, let's say my husband wants to get a treat, and I'm like, I'm trying to be clean here, and I'm trying to watch what I eat, and he can eat whatever he wants, honestly. So I'll say, go ahead and get a treat. But what we'll do is we'll have him choose something that I particularly don't like or doesn't tempt me. For example, lemon meringue. I know some of you are like, what? She doesn't like my lemon meringue. I do not like lemon meringue. It smells like fishy eggs and lemon, and it's weird. That's me. Anyway, the point is my husband loves it. And so he can bring that in. I have zero desire for it. So that's an example how you maybe can come to a common ground, have treats in the house that don't tempt you. That'll help too. Finally, number 10, you need to look at having it a whole family, whole household concept. And where 9 and 10 kind of come together. But I want to step a little deeper and talk about this. A lot of people come to me and they say, okay, I need to get back on track and I'm going to help create a meal plan, and here we go. I always create meal plans that consider the entire household, because what that person is eating, the entire household, for the most part, should eat. Dinner should be dinner. Lunch should be lunch. I mean, there could be some differences there. You might take a different lunch than your spouse, and that's fine. But main meals that you're going to eat together in a household, if that's the situation, it makes 0 sense to cook 2 different meals. And I've seen people do it, and they don't keep it up, and they fall. And who wins? Well, it's what the kids and the husband want that wins. Why don't you find a happy medium? I always look at, okay, what's the main protein? We can all settle for something in the middle there we all like. Make sure there's always vegetable options. And I make my kids eat them most of the time with some, some like peppers, some don't. So we find a balance there. And then a starch of some sort. They can go ahead and put all that starch on their plate, and I will watch that starch content. So you won't see a lot of casseroles in my house, here or there, maybe Sunday or something. But overall, I'll try and stay away from casseroles because they're one dish deal, and I can't exactly pick out the things that I shouldn't be eating at 7 o'clock at night, if that makes sense. So, but anyway, look at that. Make sure you're looking at everything, doing these changes and getting your family involved. And really, some of the changes that you are making is good for them too. It's good for them to learn within reason, like controlling treats and making sure that treats are a special occasion, not a regular occasion. And yeah, we're going to get pizza out. Maybe not 5 times or 6 times a week. Maybe it's on a Friday night. That's okay. But make sure the whole family agrees with this, or it's going to be really, really difficult to achieve your goals when you feel like you're the only one that's looking for it and everyone else seems to be pretty much against you. It's very, very difficult. So that's something to look at. And as a little side note and a trick, when I'm talking to a client and I'm talking about the benefits of going more whole grain and things like that, and they're saying, oh, they'll only eat white rice and white pasta, which nutritionally is not awesome, then I'm like, try the slow integration. It's like the frog that gets boiled slowly. So what you do is, maybe I'm doing a cup of white rice. Well, what I might do is a 3/4 cup of white rice with a 1/4 cup of the brown rice. Put in a little whole grain. That seems to slide okay. I got to adjust my cooking and water a little bit, but that seems to slide. They don't actually even notice, believe it or not. And then little ways down the road, I'm doing a 1/2 and 1/2. Little ways down the road, 3/4. Next thing you know, I've actually done this. Switched completely to whole wheat. And it was such a slow integrated process, they actually didn't notice. And then one day when they did, they didn't actually care because they learned to enjoy it. So that's an interesting trick that I've done as well, especially with integrating things like vegetables and hiding them and things. So those are some of the top 10. I've got a little bit more, but I need to condense it to 10 things. And I hope that you were able to take a little bit of this, learn, start to maybe approach things differently, because it doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be difficult, but you do have to put work into it. So if you need any other help, please send me a message, write a comment. Remember, I do nutritional consulting and I'd be more than happy to help if we can do that. So everyone, take care and have an awesome day. Bye.